The girls had been telling the truth. The library was indeed open now, although Eustace was nowhere to be found. In truth, I had no intention of working on my chronicles. I wanted to know what on earth Eustace had been working on all day, cooped up in here with the door locked. Luckily, Bridget, Violet, and Flora seemed to care little what I was actually up to. They procured a chessboard from a shelf near Eustace's desk and set to work arranging the pieces, seated around the game on the floor, cross-legged. Hang on. I can't play stuck in this thing.
Oh, crumbs! Oh, that's right. We could lift you out of the wheelbarrow if you like.
I could hear shuffling and scrambling and a protesting Flora behind me as I scanned the room for changes. Ow! 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 Fuck, that hurt! Put me back down! Sorry.
Who are trying to help? What if we put the board on your lap?
What, like, use me as a table?
Aye, that'd work.
I could hear footsteps as the more mobile pair of sisters darted away to retrieve the chairs from Eustace and I's desks.
Is this all right, Miss Hegwig?
Oh, yes. Just put everything back when you're finished.
Of course we will.
They set about arranging the chessboard on Flora's stomach and began to play. They bickered all the while. I did my best to ignore them as I looked at the rows of books, looking for anything different. There didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. Although she did have the complete Elders of Zion series. Strange. It was rather odd. I sort of have to tilt my head down to watch this.
Oh, sorry. Better than nothing, though, eh?
Suppose so. I wandered over to Eustace's desk and nonchalantly looked through the scattered papers. I flipped open the top book on her precarious stack of ledgers. It appeared to be simple accounting. Money spent on food, clothes, etc. The freshest ink on the page pledged a large amount of money to someone for building. That must be the clock tower, then. The sum was rather large. I was beginning to see why the clock tower was such a controversial project, but there was nothing out of the ordinary here. I flipped through the pages to older records. Oi! I saw that! Violet's cheating!
No, I'm not! You bring too much and move the piece of square ahead, that's all! Put it back, Violet, for goodness sake. November, October... I was looking at monetary records of a time when Catherine had been alive and well. There was nothing out of the ordinary here. More food, mostly. I kept flipping back, further back, hoping to find something strange. What's the best present you two have ever gotten? Are you trying to distract me? Just chatting. You know my answer. And true enough. You know my answer too.
Well, I don't.
It's a secret. Aye, sorry.
Oh. Well, mine is as well. I was nearing the end of the book, and beginning to think that I wouldn't find anything, when finally I noticed something strange. A truly eye-popping amount of money had been taken into the Abbey's coffers 2 years prior. It would likely have paid for all of the items in the book thus far, and more. The note next to it simply read... Sherry. Something is up with the sherry. Because Adela said that the sherry was tasting off. Are they doing something suspicious with the sherry? Maybe. I flipped back a few more pages, but there was nothing else out of the ordinary I could spot. I closed the book and looked around the library. A luxurious sum for the Abbey's sherry was certainly interesting, but this book was old. If Eustace had been working on something sinister, or hiding something from me, she wouldn't have left something this important sitting on her desk. Interesting. But not what I was looking for. With a huff, I realized that Eustace probably wouldn't write "Teach Flora evil spells" down anywhere.
Can I write letters while I'm in here? Of course you can. We used to write letters to each other all the time, didn't we? Aye, I just didn't know if that was, you know, a secret or something.
Moira writes letters all the time.
Oh, how does she send them?
I think just with the mail cart, probably.
What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. It's... Something happened here a while before you lot joined, and I just remembered we haven't had a mail cart down to the village in a while.
Well, that's no good. Need to fix that, sharpish.
I'm finally coming around to Violet's voice, and the way I'm doing that is I'm talking out of one side of my mouth. Somehow talking out of the right side of my mouth is actually making this work. I tried the door to the sacristan chambers next. It was locked, naturally.
What's in there? Oh, nothing important, really. I was just hoping to find a broom.
Eustace has you sweeping this place?
No. Just thought it might be nice to help.
Huh. I looked over toward the back shelves. Dare I? It was the only remaining place I hadn't checked. I would be dead meat if Eustace walked in and saw me snooping around back there. And if any of these younger sisters mentioned that they had seen me poking around in the back shelves, even in passing, I had to be brave. I took a deep breath and walked into the rows of shelves as casually as I could. As if it were the most natural, normal thing in the world for me to be exploring the darker recesses of the library. I walked ahead. It was dark, but not as pitch dark as the last time I had ventured here. A shining object emerged out of the ink. Standing upright in front of me was the suit of armor I had seen in the side room during Eustace's little tour. This was odd. I turned around. I could see Flora, Violet, and Bridget playing chess in the light, far away. I turned back around to face the suit of armor, but as I did, something new caught my eye. All of the shelves beyond it were empty. There wasn't a single book on any of the shadowed racks. The shelves nearer to the front of the room were still stocked, but the more dimly lit brackets were utterly bare. I quickly made my way back into the light.
My mom cried when I told her I was joining a convent. You cried when they cut your hair, too. Well, I was emotional, wasn't it? I cried, too.
I didn't.
Really? Piss off, I bet you did.
Not a sniffle.
Rubbish.
I tried the door to the sacrist's room once again. It was still locked, of course.
You really want that broom, eh?
It's very dusty back there. I winced. Why would I call attention to the fact I had been back anywhere?
The libraries ought to be a bit dusty. Means the books are good and old.
I was no fool. I was certain that Eustace had spent the day moving books from the back shelves to the side room. But why? Angela had to hear about this. The Superior as well. She would be able to give me the key. I could feel panic rising inside me. I burst out of the library, not caring how deranged I must have looked to Flora and her newfound friends. Where was Angela? It would be time for supper soon. Perhaps I would find Angela downstairs? It was still pouring rain outside. I flew down the stairs and scanned the cloister. Where was Angela? Where was anybody, for that matter? Through the lashing rain, I heard voices. I followed them out into the archway, and my heart sank. There was a large procession of carts outside the abbey, and a large crowd of nuns surrounding them. The builders were here. I had never seen so many carts, or so many people. It was as if a whole town was knocking on Lynborough's door. There were horses and oxen, men and stones. The Superior was talking to a well-dressed man with a well-kept beard and dark skin. He was smiling, bowing, and making a show out of introducing himself to all of the present sisters. Behind him I could see more men. Mostly younger, all of them dressed far more plainly, stepping out of carts tending to the animals and gesticulating toward the abbey. I felt lightheaded. I took a few steps forward. If I could join the other sisters, at least, and appear present, perhaps I could avoid keeling over. I sidled up next to Margaret and Catherine. There were so many of them. I know. Isn't it splendid? There was no witty rejoinder from Margaret, which surprised me. Thank God for rain. You can see every muscle. I saw her glance at Margaret. She too, then, had noticed her friend's odd silence. Are you quite all right, Margaret? Sorry. Having a moment. That's my father over there. She nodded towards the man the Superior was speaking to. Really? Huh. I suppose I see the resemblance. I'm willing to cross a few lines in this playthrough, but I'm not touching that one. That did get the smallest smile out of Margaret, although it was quite fleeting. Oh, shut it. I haven't seen him in almost 10 years. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to see him again. I wasn't sure I was supposed to see him again. Do you not get along? On the contrary. He's the best father anyone could ask for. Why so glum, then? She cast her eyes downward again, and Catherine was left looking bewildered. Margaret was not alone with her thoughts for long, however. Sister Margaret, do you recognize this man? This man recognizes her? Monica, my dear. It's Margaret now. Ah, of course. Margaret? A beautiful name for a beautiful daughter. You will forgive me if it takes some time for me to adjust. You shall always be my little Monica. Yeah. Are you well? You don't seem pleased to see me. No, it's just overwhelming. That and, well, it's raining. I'm drenched. Oh, I was so overcome I hardly noticed. When the men are done building the tents, we must catch up. I want to hear all about your service. Of course, Father. The man beamed and affectionately tousled the top of Margaret's hood before turning around to bark commands at the men unloading the carts. Margaret retreated back under the archway out of the rain, and the rest of the sisters followed her example. Everyone milled about, gawking at the workers as they pitched tents and tended to their oxen and horses.
Phew, if it isn't half pissing down.
Count your lucky days. It'll be snow soon enough. Marta turned to me and smiled wryly. No cloak? You're a brave one. I realized that all of the sisters were wearing heavy cloaks over their uniform, just like the one Angela had donned the other evening. Well, I mean, you were thinking more about what was underneath that as opposed to the cloak itself. But anyway. I don't have one.
Oh goodness, tell the Superior when you can, and she'll find you one. We can't have you wandering around all nippy this winter.
Especially not with that lot out there. She gestured toward the workers, who appeared to be having a difficult time in the downpour. A few had already slipped in the mud, much to the delight of several sisters. I can't believe you're complaining. I'm in heaven. Don't trust them. And they're building a bloody town right outside our windows, for goodness sakes. It's going to be campfire songs and drunken ballyhoo all night, every night, mark my words. I didn't know they said ballyhoo in Spain. Well, if you ever hear about an all-woman construction company, be sure to let us know. We can hire them next time. It's not a place for men, that's all I mean. It's bad enough having the bishop here. It's Sister Marta, he's a holy man. He's meant to come and give communion and then hop along. He's a dog like any other. Well, you shouldn't say that sort of thing. I'm old enough to know a lecturer when I see one. Those two. She waggled her walking stick toward the Superior and the Bishop, who were now walking back towards the archway as well. Those two were made for each other. Now, girls, as you can see, the builders are going to be living quite close to the dormitory. I must ask that you behave while they are here. Be polite, be demure, and above all else, do not embarrass yourselves. I wouldn't dream of it. You can count on us. Good. Now, the men will be taking their meals in the tents, but naturally they will be spending time within the abbey walls, working on the clock tower during the day. They are not to be bothered. I understand that it might be strange having so many people here, especially men, but they have promised to stay out of the way. If we can extend the same courtesy to them, I'm certain they'll barely be noticed. Everyone murmured in approval. The Superior nodded, and she and the Bishop took her leave toward her office. So, who wants to visit the tents tonight? But of course, it would only be polite. That's what the Superior wanted. Another night, perhaps.
Oh, why not?
Marta rolled her eyes and took her leave as well. Oh dear.
Oh, never mind her, she'll get over it. I'm sure she'll change her tune after she sees a few of the lads lifting stones.
Margaret, who had been standing quietly to the side, finally spoke up. I'll probably steer clear. Bit weird, you understand. Oh, right. It's not like your father will be in the big tent. Besides, you're a big girl. You're allowed to talk to the other children. Sure, I don't know. It's still weird. They all know him. They report to him even. I understand. Do you wish us to avoid them? Oh god, no. I wouldn't ask anything like that. Go make friends. I'll just avoid it, probably. As long as you're not upset. Margaret offered a thin smile. Of course not. The conversation sputtered out, and people began to take their leave. Charity dawdled off in the direction that Marta had disappeared, and Catherine walked with Margaret towards the stairs up to the dorms. Adela smiled pleasantly at me, then left in the direction of the cellars. Well, it's going to be a strange few weeks, I fear. Things are already strange. Not true enough. Oh, speaking of, have you seen Eustace today? No, I know she was busy in the library earlier, but I haven't actually run into her. Me either. I hope she's well. She seemed rather out of it when we last spoke. Oh well. What are you up to for the rest of the day? Realization hit me like a brick. Oh no. I was actually meant to help Darcy with the sheep this afternoon.
Oh, she'll be so cross with me. No. That's not like her. Darcy thinks the world of you. I got caught up with Flora and the newcomers and just forgot. Ah, yes. Poor Flora. Is she making friends? I'm not so sure. They were all playing chess in the library earlier, but they seem to be bickering quite a bit. Oh, that's good. Well, that's friendship. Really? Of course. Look at Catherine and Margaret, or Charity and Marta. Or, well, I was about to say Eustace and yourself, but... But what? Have things been strained between you two lately? Forgive me for prying, I just worry. No. I appreciate the concern. I don't know, she is rather difficult to work with, I suppose. Well, yes, I've noticed this as well. You've worked together before, I take it? Of course, we all end up working together here, on something or other. Eustace is very particular and a bit intense. But I wouldn't worry, you've butted heads before. She'll get over it, whatever it is. I tried my best to smile appreciatively, but I just couldn't believe her. Anyway, I suppose I should go check in on the kitchens if Darcy's been busy with the sheep today. I'm sure she could use some help. Has she not returned? I don't know. I didn't see her if she did. I'll go with you. I feel bad about leaving her to tend the sheep on her own. We hurried toward the kitchens through the rain. Darcy was nowhere to be found inside. She must still be busy. I hope she's not stuck walking up the hill in this weather. Oh my goodness, no. She usually gets a ride from one of the farmers after taking the sheep down to the village. She's probably just waiting out the rain. Moira looked around the kitchen, lost in thought. I don't want to tread on any toes, but... Perhaps we should make supper? Us? Well, if Darcy is indisposed, I don't know how else we're going to eat. I'm sure she'd appreciate a meal when she returns, too. It's a lovely idea, I don't know the first thing about cooking. Nor I. Wouldn't it be fun to learn? She picked up a big metal pan and held it the way one might imagine a soldier testing the weight of a new weapon. I don't know. There's a lot of fire involved. I'm sure it's easy. I've watched her do it loads of times. Now, do you know how to start a fire? This turned from a murder mystery involving nuns to a home improvement episode. It needs more power, Hedwig. Ho, ho, ho. She was resting her hands on her knees, bent low, peering into the bottom of the stove. I haven't the slightest idea. Perhaps we could ask someone for help? Eustace would know, surely. Shall I go find her? Good idea. I'll scrounge up some ingredients in the meantime. She wandered over to the larder and began selecting cuts of meat. She hurried out of the kitchen. In truth, I had no intention of asking Eustace about the stove. I was more concerned with delaying disaster, or at the very least not being responsible for whatever inevitable mistake might ruin supper. Or worse, the kitchen. What a coward I was. Hedwig's like, not my monkeys, not my circus. Still, I hurried out into the rain and made my way back toward the Superior's office. I could pretend that I was looking for Eustace. Perhaps I might even suggest what I was doing to anyone who might pass by. My story would hold up to any scrutiny Moira might apply to it. It was Angela who was on my mind, however. The fact that Eustace was absent at all was suspect, and I had been distracted long enough. My hope was that Angela would be with the Superior, discussing the Abbey's new guests. She was the prioress, after all. As luck would have it, I was correct. The door was opened for me by the bishop, who offered an apologetic smile as I was ushered in. He and Margaret's father were standing on the far side of the room nearest the door, while Angela prowled around the Superior's chair, arguing with her. Which I find unacceptable. This is wanton disregard for our safety. You are being more than a bit melodramatic, Angela. It is warranted. This is carelessness I thought beneath even you. Sorry to interrupt, but is this about the men outside? Of course it is. Tell me, Hedwig, will you feel safe going to sleep tonight? What a question to throw my way. Don't answer that, Hedwig. Angela is hysterical. She's just trying to wind you up. My laborers are all vetted, Sister Angela. You have my word, if you will take it. How many men are there? Dozens, surely. You can guarantee that not one blackguard has slipped past your notice? My company's reputation is everything. We work on manor houses and the like. Misbehavior is punished swiftly and totally. So you admit, then, that men in your employ have misbehaved before. I heard the tiniest sharp exhalation from Crispin, but his polite demeanor never faltered. I feel as though I've walked into an argument I cannot win.
If I admit to the reality you describe, I would never claim that nobody has needed to be punished in my incorporated history. Then the way I have dealt with this reality can never be enough. I think you and the Superior are attempting to ignore the reality I am critical of. A camp full of restless men, young and old, exhausted by work and full of drink, sits outside of a nunnery. Within a stone's throw of the windows up to our private rooms, nonetheless. We have no gate, no locks. Thieves or worse have unfettered access to any treasure they might desire. Ridiculous. With all due respect, Sister Angela, if my word is not good enough, what would be? Should I castrate all of my employees? Oh no, the taxes are going to do that for you. That might be a good start.
What about a curfew?
My men are not children, Lord Bishop. They would not take well to that sort of treatment. It certainly sounds like you have them under control. Respect is the greater part of control, good sister. I have no doubt your dogs respect you for giving them such a long leash. Will they respect us, though? The Superior slammed her hands flat onto the desk. Enough! The meeting is over. There is nothing to negotiate. I am sorry, Angela, but you will just have to put up with our guests. They are here to do a necessary job. Out of season, no less. We should be grateful. Crispin gave the Superior a little nod of appreciation. We shall work fast and work well. You will have your tower before the year ends. By that token, I should get back to the camp and see how things are progressing. Have a pleasant evening, ladies, Lord Bishop. He offered everyone another charming smile and left the office. If I hadn't already known he was Margaret's father, I would have made the connection then and there. That grin was unmistakable. What do you need, Hedwig? I was actually looking for Sister Angela. Ah, much luck. She is all yours. You are both dismissed. GTFO. I need to think about GOD. She waved her hand toward the door. The bishop offered yet another apologetic expression to me as he saw Angela and I out into the cloister hall. Look, I'm doing my best here. I'm sorry. When the door closed behind us, Angela huffed. Unbelievable. She has lost her mind. Because of those men? Follow me. She took off toward the chapel. We eventually stopped behind the shadow pillar, just out of the brain's reach. I will ask you again, Hedwig. When you go to sleep tonight, will you feel safe? No. But I must admit that has very little to do with those men. Their presence does not bother you? Not any more than the presence of a murderer. Or the devil himself, for that matter. I mean, whatever those guys do to me, at least I know that'll be over in 10 minutes. I suppose you have spent your whole life in a little locked room. Men love to take, Hedwig. They will be a problem before you know it. I suppose I just have bigger things to worry about, Sister Angela. Angela looked oddly forlorn. The idea that I did not see eye to eye with her on this matter seemed to genuinely baffle her. Then I shan't belabor it. You said you were looking for me. What did you want? Well, I was unable to speak to Darcy, but nevertheless, I wanted to report something rather odd. Eustace has been missing all day. Or rather, not missing, but indisposed. I think she has done something very strange in the library. Angela's face morphed back into a familiar stony expression. You were right to come and find me. What have you found? I was unable to complete my writing this morning because the door to the library was locked. I was able to enter this afternoon, but I discovered that Eustace had taken many of the books down from their shelves and locked them away in the sacristy. What on earth? Nearly everything past a certain point in the library is missing. We should go at once. Show me. She began to walk briskly towards the stairs. I felt a small sense of triumph as we made our way through the cloister and up to the second floor. Finally, I was beginning to feel like I was making real progress. Oh, I thought you were feeling proud because you were just taking stairs like a champ, finally. If there was some piece of evidence Eustace was hiding, it wouldn't be long until this mystery was solved. Even proof that Eustace was hiding something might be enough to finger her. Thought you wanted to finger Angela. I was almost excited as I opened the library door. Who's that? I can't see. The beaky one again! And the other beaky one. Beak and Beaky, nice to meet you. Both Angela and I ignored these barbs. Try that door, Angela. The sacristy? Yes.
That's always locked. Oh, I'm such a fool. I meant to ask the Superior for the key. Never mind. Show me the missing books. Whoa, missing books?
It wasn't us! We've just been playing chess!
I hesitated for a moment, then moved towards the shelves. Then I stopped. This is where my story might start to stretch credulity. Just now. But I swear upon my life that this is true. The shelves did not extend as far back as I remember them going. In fact, the back wall of the library was perfectly well lit by the candelabra hanging from the ceiling. Where are the missing books, Hedwig? My guess would be in the sacristy, of course, but which shelves were emptied? Every visible shelf was fully stocked. I don't know. I stepped forward, hoping that I was just missing something obvious in my nervous state. I can't see anything out of place. Nor I. Flora, did Eustace come back while I was away? Nope. Angela had stepped into the rows of shelves I was in, peering up at the very present books in confusion. I headed back towards the younger nuns and turned to face the shelves once more. I stepped into the row adjacent to the one Angela was perusing. To my great relief, I could now see back into the inky depths of the full library. Ah, here we are! Angela, come over to this row! I jogged into the darkness. Now I could see the empty shelves all around, just barely visible. I heard Angela's footsteps approaching and turned to beckon her toward me. Hedwig, where are you? I'm right here. It's just a little dark. Hedwig? Hello? Just step forward. It was as if she could not hear me, let alone see me. If this is a joke, Hedwig, it is not funny. You know that I dislike having my time wasted. I'm not joking! Sister Angela! Sister Angela! I shouted as loud as I could. Angela tilted her head quizzically, but otherwise did not react. Bewildered and a little frustrated, I marched back into the light. If I had to drag her into the back shelves by her hand, I would. Oh! There you are. I've been here all this time. Just follow me. I turned around to head back into the dark shelves, but they were no longer visible. Found them. Once again, there was only a well-lit wall at the back of the room. The bookshelves around us were perfectly stocked. I half expected Angela to chide me, but her expression was oddly grave. There's nothing there, Hedwig. Yes, but there was, a moment ago. I promise, I'm not pulling a prank on you. I don't think you are. She was staring at the wall. I could just barely see her lip quivering. Did you hear me shouting for you a moment ago? She did not respond. Flora, did any of you hear me calling for Angela?
Maybe.
I didn't hear anything.
Nor I. Really? I swear I heard something.
Angela? You didn't hear me? I gave quite a bellow. We should leave. Right now. She spun on her heel and practically ran out of the library. I chased after her, letting the door slam behind us as we flew out into the second-floor landing. Angela braced herself on the stone railing overlooking the cloister. She was white as a sheet. Are you quite all right? Could you truly not see or hear me? I could see you. Enough. Enough. I shut up and stood awkwardly while Angela collected herself. What did you see? The empty shelves I told you about. They were just as I left them. Angela slammed her fist against the stone railing. There was nothing there. But you were gone. And then you were back again. Perhaps I blinked or turned away, but I only stepped toward you. You have to believe me. I do believe you. Which is why I am in such distress. There is no explanation for what I just saw. We should find Eustace and demand the key to the sacristy. Then we can find the books, and whatever trickery this is won't matter anymore. Yes, that would be wise. She turned her gaze to the library door. Do you think they're safe in there? They seem not to mind at all. True enough. I suppose nowhere in this abbey is safe. Not until we find what's in the sacristy. Indeed. She pulled herself up. She still looked rather shaken, but a tiny glint of her usual resolve was flickering in her eyes. I will go and ask the Superior if she has a spare key for the sacristity. You start asking around the sisters to see if you can narrow down her location. One way or another, we'll get into that room. I nodded. We headed down the stairs together and parted ways at the bottom.
Man, she's gonna have to invent new body parts to show her for that kind of reveal.
I made my way back toward the kitchen to check in with Moira before anything else. I could tell her the truth. I was still looking for Eustace and would be unable to help with supper. Despite everything, I was still determined to keep up appearances. I entered the kitchen and was immediately overwhelmed with smoke. I mean, usually there's smoke in the kitchen when Darcy is cooking, but it's a different kind. Long story. Moira! I couldn't speak. The air was thick and made me cough as soon as I opened my mouth. Oh, Hedwig, did you find... Moira also began to cough. I held the door open to allow the gray wisp to dissipate outside. I stood in a daze for a moment, overwhelmed by the memory of the beast's sulfuric stench that night on top of the wall. Moira finally collected herself. She was still smiling, though her eyes were watery. Did you find Eustace? I managed on my own, but I could still use some expertise. I couldn't find her. I'm still looking for her, actually. I just wanted to check on you here so you weren't waiting. Oh, not to worry. I'll manage by myself. I just burned one bit of meat, but I think I can cut the worst of it off. The next one will be easy. Learn by doing, that's what I always say. I nodded warily and watched as she plopped another cut of meat into the frying pan atop the stove. More smoke began to billow up as the meat sizzled violently. Could you leave the door ajar for me on your way out? I nodded and propped the door open. The kitchen had a chimney, but Moira was managing to produce far too much smoke for it to handle. I wandered back towards the cloister, unsure of who to check in with next. Literally not putting that fire out, or where I might start searching to find her myself. Her dorm room? The garden? The cellars? All seemed about as likely as each other. I entered the hallway surrounding the cloister, barely paying attention to where I was going. Oi! A sudden voice made me jump. Watch where you're going! Be nice, Violet. She was off in her own little world.
I'm a bit hard to miss, though, eh?
I'm sorry. I was lost in thought. Us too, but you don't see us nearly barging into people, do you? Well, we almost did barge into her, didn't we? Think that one's on us. She nearly walked into us! But it takes two to bump into each other, doesn't it? I could feel my patience waning already. In an attempt to be helpful, I changed the subject. You were lost in thought as well? Might I be of assistance?
We were looking for Sister Catherine. Any idea where she is?
I'm afraid not. Actually, I'm looking for someone as well. Have any of you seen Sister Eustace?
Nah.
Sorry. It's no trouble at all, no need to apologize. I offered as pleasant a smile as I could, but none of them returned it. We walked past each other to return to our separate searches. I took a few steps forward, but something caught my eye. The cloister lawn had been ravaged terribly, deep divots and tracks lining the previously green grass. I turned around, suddenly quite irritated. Hey! Did you push the wheelbarrow over the cloister? They looked at each other briefly. No, sister. You think this little thing could have done all that? It was all those blokes moving stones. You mean the builders? No, the Plantagenet army! Of course we mean the builders! Very well. I apologize. She was only looking out for the upkeep of the abbey, Violet. Fair enough. No reason to treat us like criminals, though. I mean, we're stealing stuff, but we're not stealing anything from you. I feel the distinction is important. I did apologize. She did? She did. Oh, right. Sorry about that, Miss Hedwig. Apology accepted. I hope you find who you're looking for. Aye, you as well. Flora continued staring at me as Violet turned her wheelbarrow around. I turned back the way I had been walking and continued my laps. After a few laps, I wandered toward the garden, hoping Eustace might just materialize in front of me. Just beams in like from Star Trek. People had a habit of bumping into me at the right time, after all. It's almost like I'm a protagonist or something. Unfortunately, I would have no such luck today. It was still raining and there was nobody in the garden. I sighed. There was no use getting drenched unless I had to. I turned back towards the cloister. As I paced up the gravel path, a puddle caught my eye. Oh! An idea struck me. I had a good idea of where she might be. The rain kept coming. I pounded on the door to the Superior's office once again, hoping that I wouldn't bother her. I had a strong suspicion that Eustace was off fishing, but there was no way I was going to walk there in this weather without one of those thick cloaks the others had begun to wear. Raindrops felt good against my skin, but soggy clothes did not. What is it? Oh, Sister Hedwig, Sister Angela was just here. She said you were busy. Did you need something? Nothing important, but... Well, the rain has been getting awfully heavy lately. I was hoping I could be spared one of the traveling cloaks the others are wearing. You want provided a heavy cloak? Oh, goodness, how embarrassing. One moment. I should have a spare. The bishop was still here, leaning against the Superior's desk. He smiled warmly at me. It didn't work, however. I felt annoyed. What did he do all day, exactly? I immediately felt ashamed for being so judgmental, however, and quickly returned his smile. Let us see. I usually keep one or two at the bottom of the wardrobe, just in case somebody damages or loses theirs. She opened a large cabinet set against the wall. Perhaps I spoke too soon. Oh dear. How odd, I could have sworn I had one. You are certain there isn't one in your new room? It should have been folded up underneath the bed. I'm quite sure. How queer. I gave Darcy very specific instructions on preparing your room. Well, if you need one right this moment, I suppose you might borrow mine. She retrieved the single cloak that was hanging in the wardrobe and handed it to me. Oh no, I couldn't possibly... nonsense, I don't plan on stepping out into that nasty weather for very long if I can help it. Just take good care of it. Of course. Thank you, Your Reverence. My eyes darted toward the bishop. You have a deep well of kindness, Mabel. I do what I can. I slipped the heavy fabric over my shoulders and fastened the clasp on my neck. The sensation was immediately overwhelming, snug, warm, perhaps even a little stifling for the indoor air. Is there anything else? Do you have anything new to report about your investigation? Oh, actually, there is one thing. Did you wind up giving Angela a key for the sacristy? That's my next port of call. No. Eustace has just the one.
Oh, really? Goodness me, that seems rather irresponsible.
She insisted there should only be a single key. Our collection is too valuable to leave multiple keys lying around, or so she says. I was reminded of Flora's story about sneaking into the Superior's office and found myself agreeing with Eustace. On principle, at least. Not to worry then, I shall simply ask Eustace for help. If that had been my plan in the first place, I was grateful for the new tidbit of information, however. I was beginning to feel more and more confident in my suspicions. I don't have anything to report in that case. I may just have something conclusive soon, however. I was nursing a desire for approval, and part of me wanted to spill everything to the Superior right away. But if I was wrong about Eustace's books, I'd look utterly mad, no matter how suspect the rest of her behavior was. Not to mention the fact that I might need to explain what had happened to me and Angela in the library, which might destroy whatever shred of credibility I was holding on to. Why so mercurial? Oh, no reason. I just don't want to promise anything too grand before I can deliver. Suit yourself. Have a good evening, Hedwig. I nodded my head and took my leave. I started toward the path to Eustace's secluded fishing spot, getting used to moving in the Superior's cloak. When I stepped into the rain, I noticed the difference immediately. The thick fabric absorbed the beating raindrops effortlessly. It was a very strange sensation. As I made my way down the path toward the outer wall, however, I became more uncomfortable than I had been sans cloak. My clothes had been soaked through already today, and the traveling cloak trapped the soggy, loose fabric in a way that felt awful as I moved. When I made it to the stone passageway, I paused for a moment to adjust my clothes. I did my best to peel the wet fabric off of my skin and fluff it a little, hoping that would sit a little bit more comfortably under the cloak with a little fiddling. Alas, it was easier said than done. As I leaned against the wall for balance while rearranging my robe, a glint of metal caught my eye. Why was the sword here? I bent down to retrieve it. Once again, I marveled at how natural it felt in my hands. I turned the blade over to inspect it. Sure enough, there was the Hebrew engraving. Why had it been deposited so unceremoniously out here? Keeping good care of the sword was Eustace's job, as she had complained about so many times before. More evidence of her strange behavior, I thought. I decided to carry it with me. It was her responsibility in the first place. Plus, I would feel a degree of satisfaction asking her why she had left it to rust in the rain after Catherine's wake. I could demand the sacristy key.
she would have no choice but to give me the key. The sword must be returned to that room for safekeeping. Eustace would be in a real bind, wouldn't she? She would have to give me the key or let me into the room. I held the sword. The alternative was showing the superior the neglected blade. See how wet it is. What if it had been damaged by the elements, rusted? And failing those scenarios, what if Eustace resisted me? A surge of anxious energy passed through me as I navigated off the path onto the trail to Eustace's fishing spot. She might panic when I asked her for the key, I thought. Or if she truly had something to hide, she might attack me. Well, in that case, I would defend myself bravely. I hacked at a few branches along the path to practice my swing. Hi-ya! When I finally reached the log I had had to clamber over twice before, I gave it a good slicing down the middle. Nothing could slow me down now. I hacked the rotten log in twain with a few more hits, and the path opened up to me. Da-na-na-na! I jogged ahead. I was beginning to feel excited. I was so close to finding Eustace. I was so close to freedom. I was so consumed by the idea of catching Eustace in her lies that I ceased worrying about the beast that had attacked me in Flora. Or the magic circle, or the strange events in the library. Those things followed this thing. The head counted far more than the limbs. If Eustace was forced to tell me the truth about what she was up to, if she was made to admit that she had something to do with Catherine's death, everything else might follow. I practically pranced the rest of the way to the riverbank. Alas, my giddiness was all for nothing. There was nobody else here. I had been wrong. I surveyed my surroundings. In retrospect, it should have been obvious. Fishing? In this weather? How stupid was I? I let out a howl of frustration so loud I surprised myself. Even with the tree cover, sitting in the damp grass for hours on end would have been miserable. I'd imagine Eustace slinking out into the woods to contemplate her nefarious schemes huddled in the rain, beating fish against her bucket to calm herself. It had made perfect sense in my mind. But here I was, a lone fool, drenched to the bone. I'd had enough. I was humiliated and uncomfortable. I felt hot and clammy all over. I had had enough of my sodden clothes. In a fury, I flung the sword to the ground and began to tear my garments off. I let the cloak fall to the ground and yanked my robes over my head, balling them into a squishy heap on the ground. Enough! It was colder this way, but at the very least I was free from the awful sensation of soaked fabric steaming underneath a thick cloak. I held my arms aloft, inviting the raindrops to cool me down. Slowly but surely, the oppressive, sticky sensation my damp clothes had imbued with me was replaced with a cold but crisp sense of comfort. Oh, it's you! Me, again! Frustrated? Everyone heard that bellow, I'm sure. Leave me alone. We are alone. For now. Someone will come looking eventually. We should enjoy ourselves while we can. Nobody knows where I am. Eustace might guess. Then let her come. I was looking for her anyway. And let her find you like this? Be quiet. She chuckled, then picked up the sword and examined it idly. What are you doing? Just looking. Looking at what? Nothing. Goodness, you are paranoid. I glowered and sat down in the tall grass. I just need some time to collect myself. By all means. I laid down and shut my eyes, exhaling deeply. The rain pelted my body, massaging me, relaxing me. What had I come looking for again? I opened my eyes. Hello. Whoa! What are you doing? The same thing you are. Nonsense. You tricked me. Wanted to get me out here alone. Pulled me here with your infernal line. She did not respond, but leaned down to kiss my forehead. Stop that. Stop what? She picked up the sword again. What does it say, do you think? I can't read Hebrew. Isn't that a shame? That seems like it'd be useful in your line of work. You're right. I wouldn't even be able to read the Septuagint. How many layers separate you from the gospel truth, I wonder? I don't like to think about that. That's quite all right. I think about it for you. I think about a lot of things for you. Oh?
Is that why you pull me around with that invisible thread of yours? Thread? What thread? I don't lead you anywhere. Not on purpose, at least. I just wander freely. If you feel compelled to follow me, that's on you, I am afraid. I do not understand. There's a lot competing for attention in your spirit. What happened to Catherine? What might happen to you? Will you see heaven? Why did you feel all funny when Catherine pulled you close? Stop it! Why do you feel funny when you look at Adela, or Moira, or Margaret? Stop it! Or Eustace? And why, oh why, do you feel it the most when you look at Angela? You're wrong, you know. Don't deny it. You're forgetting one. Am I? Oh, that's right. You feel it the strongest when you think about Catherine. Yes. You could never touch her, though. And you never will. So what would you call it, that feeling? I don't know. Gnawing, I suppose. Loss. Emptiness. Yes. She turned the sword over in her hands, examining the handle. This was Catherine's sword, was it not? Somebody said that in the Misericorde. The night Eustace pretended to be the ghost. Why? Catherine's sword. She ran her fingers over the pommel, deep in thought. We have some time to ourselves, don't we? Time enough, I'm sure. She traced her fingers down the handle, all the way past the crossguard. I'm carrying another thought for you. Oh? Indeed. She guided my hands to the base of the blade. Ow! Hold the guard, you stupid woman. Just relax. I'll take care of things. It was beginning to get dark when I finally rose to my feet again. The rain had dissipated. I was shaky and unsure of my footing, but undeniably calm. My hands stung in the rain. I looked down at my palms and grimaced. I told you to be careful. She was washing the sword in the stream. Water's not good for metal, is it? Blood is worse, I should think. Especially on the leather. I blanched and turned away. I picked up my clothes, meaning to get dressed. They were unusable, however. I sighed and retrieved the Superior's traveling cloak. This, at the very least, was still usable. I fastened it around my neck and pulled it closed around my naked body, just as Angela had worn hers before. You did that on purpose. To what are you referring? Let your clothes get soaked. Oh no, now I have to walk all the way back wearing naught but a cloak. That's not true. Yes, it is. Want to know how I know? Because I thought of it for you. Enough. She handed me the washed sword with an impish grin. The trek home was as exhilarating as she had insinuated, of course. I was cold, wet, and shivering, but I was happy. Happier than I had been relaxing on the riverbank, even. Why is that, do you think? I don't know. Isn't that your job to think about? It's a puzzle, even for me. You could lay with anyone you like here, surely. But you don't want that, do you? I do. I do sometimes. But I know it's wrong. Is it any more wrong than this? It's different. You don't want to ask. You're just abdicating responsibility. Giving is wrong, but being taken from, well, that's not on you, is it? I just like how the air feels against my skin. I'm sure you do. So do I, naturally. But it must be something more than that, surely. Must it? And is it so wrong? Surely there are far worse vices. I'm inclined to agree, but is it my blessing you need? You know what I think? I think it's even more than putting the burden on your onlookers. I think you want to be worshipped. Enough. Let me enjoy this walk in peace. Suit yourself? I walked the rest of the way home in silence, the sword in one hand, my clothes in the other. I let the cloak flap open, inviting the cold air to dry my skin somewhat. It was getting dark, but I could see the glint of torches ahead. As I approached the outer wall of the abbey, my thoughts returned. What if all those men saw you? What do you think might happen? I suppose they might see me. And then what? I know you've often imagined yourself under the acacia trees. I know you dream of Absalom. Perhaps they'd erect a tent just for you. I meant to argue, but I could not. I was distracted by a dark shadow looming above the abbey. At first I thought it had been a rain cloud, but as I drew closer, I caught a familiar scent on the breeze. Smoke. I broke into a sprint without thinking. It was difficult to run with both arms occupied. I looked ridiculous, I'm sure. The traveling cloak billowed out behind me as I sprinted. I let out a growl of frustration as I passed into the walls of the abbey. This would not do. Even in an emergency, running around naked as anything was too much, even for my addled mind. My clothes were still unusably wet. There was no other choice. I tossed the sword back into the grass I had found it in, then covered it hastily with a pile of laundry. Now I could pull my traveling cloak around myself at the very least. I would come back for the evidence. Everyone would be distracted by the fire anyway. I made my way toward the source of the smoke, following my nose. I felt terrible. Leaving Moira to her own devices had been selfish of me. I had no doubt in my mind that she'd become overwhelmed by the intricacies of work only Darcy could do. But as I passed through the cloister, I realized that the fire was not in the kitchen. It was coming from upstairs. Several men were rushing up the stairs carrying buckets. I pulled my cloak a little tighter around myself as they passed me. A horrid realization was building inside of me as I crested the final steps. My fears were confirmed. Hedwig! Oh, Hedwig, I'm so glad you're well. What happened? There's a fire in the library. I only just found out. I thought I was just smelling the stove until I heard men shouting and running. Another one of these men pushed past us as she said this. They've almost got it under control, I believe. The other sisters, the bishop, and the superior were all scattered around the second-floor hallway. Most were leaning against the stone railing, looking concerned. Margaret and Catherine were pacing about, discussing something in grave tones. Charity, Marta, Adela, Flora and the newcomers were speaking with Angela, who looked apoplectic. Darcy and Eustace were nowhere to be seen. Did Darcy ever return? No, she must be spending the night on the farm. Oh, thank goodness. What about Eustace? Moira cast her eyes downward. I'm not sure. Oh, no. I ran into the library, desperate to see what happened. I could hear Moira and the superior shouting at me to stop, but I ignored them. A half dozen of the men were charging out of the room with empty buckets. Sister, get to safety! I'm looking for my friend! Well, not a friend, as such. But I didn't have the time nor the wherewithal to explain the intricacies of my relationship with Eustace to a stranger. It's a complete and total mess in there, good sister. Oh, stop dawdling! Buckets! The muscular man looked at me pleadingly before following the others to refill their buckets. I coughed and forged ahead, the cloud of smoke billowing out of the sacristy as I had dreaded. It was hard to see. It was harder to breathe. I struggled to keep my eyes open as I searched for signs of life, or worse. Bits of burned paper were fluttering about in the air. The worst of the flames had been contained, it seemed, but there were menacing piles of ember everywhere. Gnarled black debris was scattered throughout the room. The amount of refuse was unbelievable. Everything in here had been utterly destroyed. I coughed and hacked and wheezed as I scoured the area for any hint of Eustace. A pair of hands stopped me from falling face first into a smoldering pile of ash. The same man as before had gripped my shoulder to steady me. It felt strange. I yanked myself free as forcefully as I could and wheeled around on him. Please get yourself to safety, good sister. We'll take care of the rest. I couldn't argue. I staggered out of the room and back out onto the landing. I coughed again and several people rushed forward to help me. Careful! Smoke is terrible for you! Steady, steady. I began to sob. There's nothing left. Yeah, it's a shame. I'm just glad everyone is safe. Oh, I was so worried. But everyone isn't safe. I had so many thoughts running through my head. With Eustace gone, any trails I had left to follow would go cold. I was able to enter the sacristy, but whatever had been hidden there was long gone. Worse still, there was a sinister part of me that was relieved to be rid of her. How wicked a thought. But nonetheless, it was an honest feeling. Without her breathing down my neck and with no way to pursue the mystery any further, perhaps I could live normally? Hedwig? What do you mean everyone's not safe? Have you not realized? Where's Eustace? Margaret grinned in a confused, almost condescending manner. You had me worried for a moment. She's right there, Hedwig. She pointed over her shoulder toward the stone railing. Did somebody need me? Here came Eustace, alive and well. Oh, Hedwig. Glad to see you're well. That's everyone then, isn't it? It would seem so. But, Eustace, why aren't you wearing anything, Hedwig? I didn't want to say anything. Why'd you have to go and ruin it, Eustace? It's cold. I'm just concerned. Is that my cloak? I could have died right then and there. I was looking for you, Eustace, and I slipped and fell into the stream. My clothes were soaked through. I just had to walk back in just the cloak. So sorry, Superior. And then I saw the smoke and, well, I forgot myself with worry. Oh, goodness, you've been in the wars. Are you sure you're feeling well? Why aren't you wearing anything? You two should get to bed. But, now. All right. Keep your clothes on, lady. The teenager skulked away, Violet scratching her head all the way. Angela shot me a look before turning away to interrogate somebody else about the fire. The reality of the situation was beginning to set in. I was all but naked, surrounded by all of my peers and betters. The bishop, who had been standing off to the side with the superior, was covering his eyes in shame. I was soaked, my breath was short, my feet were sore, I was covered in ash, and worst of all, I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. Horrible as it is to admit, there had been a small part of me that had hoped an act of God had removed Eustace as an obstacle. But there she was, looking as stoic as ever. I was having a very bad day.
Oh, yep, get it all out. Get it all out.